Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is the Not So Serious Keto video podcast. Now, I apologize if you hear a little bit of a hum in the background. One of my two bar fridges down here in the man cave, the condenser, sounds like it just kicked on. Hopefully you're not hearing it, but if you do, that's what's going on. Now, I want to start this podcast by talking about a little bit of weirdness that's going on in YouTube. And honestly, that could probably be a topic of every podcast because there's always something a little bit weird going on with YouTube. But this has to do specifically with YouTube and comment management. So I've explained in the past, there are two major buckets, if you will, that comments fall into within the creator dashboard, I believe is the name of it. So you have the published and you have held for review. And held for review is supposed to catch those things that YouTube, there are certain triggers, certain keywords, things like that, that it sees, whether it's hate speech or racism or probably some degree of profanity. There are a bunch of different things. And as a content creator, I also could put in certain words. If I never wanted to see the word Brussels sprouts, for example, I could put that in as a filtered word, and then anybody that left a comment about Brussels sprouts, that would go into the held for review bucket. Now, if there is a comment that YouTube thinks is especially offensive and will likely hurt the feelings of the content creator, they put it behind one further wall. So not only is it in held for review, then it goes into hidden. And if it stays in that hidden bucket without me or any other content creator looking at it for 60 days, it automatically deletes. So if I were super snowflakey and didn't want to see someone say something mean to me, I would just never open up that bucket. Anyhow, I bring this up because over the last couple of days, YouTube has been filtering out probably 50% of the comments that are left for me. And I get on the order of probably 300 to 500 comments a day. And I look through them all, which takes some time, but it takes even more time when all of these wind up going into the held for review bucket. So I have to go in, manually approve each one of them. And these have been, across the board, just completely benign. I can't figure out what the pattern is. There's, it's not like an exclamation point or something automatically makes it offensive or something like that. I've even had where people just click the super thanks button, down below to buy me a cup of coffee. Give me $2, $5, whatever, because they enjoyed the video or I saved them some money. Even those are going into held for review. So if you leave a comment and you see it not appear immediately, if you're one of these people that, wants to check, just to make sure your comments are appearing immediately, I think most people just type a comment and move on. But if you do see that a comment you left didn't appear and you're thinking, what's going on here? Is Steve angry at me? Or, did I not hit send or what happened? It's probably due to YouTube and this weird thing going on with it being more aggressive in terms of filtering out comments. Now, what's somewhat, I don't think ironic is the right word, but interesting is I got another comment that didn't get filtered. And that comment was, if you believe that keto does any benefits to your health, you should go f*** yourself in the ass on the way to your gender reassignment surgery. Now that comment, that just strikes me as inappropriate on a number of different levels. I mean, first, it's kind of homophobic, but also, if I were in fact going to surgery, I don't think I would stop for that. I've had a few surgeries. Generally, they like you to be there 2 hours early. And I'm just going to leave it at that. YouTube makes no sense to me. What they deem appropriate and what they deem inappropriate in terms of comments. But anyhow, just so you know, that's what's going on with YouTube. Now this next part, I hope no one takes offense when I explain it. But so just hear me out through the whole thing before you decide to pass judgment on me. But one of the things that I don't do when people leave a certain type of comment, well, if someone sends me basically a recipe, like I'll put out a recipe and then someone will say, well, here's how I do it. And then they'll list their recipe. Or someone will just say, you should make my recipe. Here's my recipe. I don't even read those. And the reason isn't because I'm like got this big ego or anything like that, but there's two reasons. First off is a couple of years ago, as the channel was starting to grow, I had a lot of people submitting recipes to me. They wanted me to showcase their recipe. It's as simple as that. They wanted me to make their recipe and do a video of it and, tell them, I don't know, wonderful job on the recipe. And I was just getting buried by them, and there's simply no way I could do it. Plus, I want to focus on the recipes that I want to focus on. The other thing is, I recalled a short story by Stephen King that I read probably back in high school, maybe college. And it was based a little bit on a real world experience, a real life experience that he had, where someone had sent him a short story. And he never opened it. He left it in the envelope, but he coincidentally wrote a similar short story. And then this person felt that Stephen King, or the character that Stephen King had created in this story, had plagiarized him, stolen his story, and was now going to, I don't know, hunt him down, kill him, sue him. I don't know what. It was a long time ago that I read this. So Stephen King wrote this short story to explain the reason why he doesn't accept submissions from anybody else. And that's sort of the same way I am. I want whatever recipe I put out to come from me, or if it came sort of from another source, say America's Test Kitchen or Milk Street or Food and Wine Magazine, and then I tweak it, I always make sure that I give credit to that source. But this is also the reason why I don't watch a lot of other keto channels or keto videos. And people will say, oh, did you watch the video by so-and-so? And my answer is no, I didn't. I don't. About the only things I watch some of the baking channels just because I don't do a whole lot of baking. I'm not going to come up with a new and better version of bread than Alicia at Keto Upgrade or Neely at Indigo Neely. So I trust that they're in charge of that, and I'll watch their videos and enjoy them and learn from them. And then, of course, I also watch Dennis from Black Tie Kitchen because he's a friend of mine. And, we were YouTubers and we met through YouTube and then became friends. And I'm going to actually, well, you know what? I'll talk about that right now. It is uncanny how similarly the two of us think in terms of content creation. Now, he's definitely got more skills in terms of the cinematography and all of that. He puts a ton of effort into it. But very often as we're texting, and we probably text daily, we'll be like, what are you working on right now? And the number of times that we're both working on the same thing without actually talking to each other about it is truly, truly uncanny. And I'm going to talk about something a little bit later in this podcast that is something that he's also working on, that it just independently popped into my brain. But where was I going with all this? Oh yeah, so the recipes. If you send me a recipe, generally speaking, I'm probably not even going to look at it. Now I do for the top tier of my paid channel members, which I call the executive chefs. If they want me to take a look at a recipe and give them advice on a recipe, just based on my experience, if they're trying to make something and they say, this isn't working out right, can you take a look and tell me what you think, I might try? That is one of the perks that I do offer to that membership tier. But outside of that, I want you to know that on an internal appreciation level, I do appreciate your enthusiasm for cooking and your desire to share with me. But I also want you to know that I'm probably not going to read it, even if that makes me a big jerk. I had mentioned before that little break that Dennis and we talk a lot and very often find out that we're working on similar things. And one of the things that we were talking about was credibility on the internet and artificial credibility. And one of the things that I've seen an awful lot popping up in my Google News feed are these articles that are like, I'm an expert at this, and so you should pay attention to what I have to say. Like, I'm an expert painter, and these are my 5 painting tips. Or I'm an expert chef. I'm going to come back to that one in a second. First of all, let me just say my thoughts on the whole I'm an expert. I think if you have to tell someone you're an expert, that's kind of like telling someone that you're cool or that you're a tough guy or something like that. If you have to tell me that, if I can't just figure it out on my own, you're probably not cool or a tough guy or an expert. So the moment I see anyone start an article with I'm an expert, I immediately just write that off. It's like, no, you're probably not an expert. And I bring this up because I don't know that a lot of people share this same sort of filter that I have when it comes to that sort of behavior. This, I'm going to create my own credibility. One of the articles that I saw in my newsfeed was, I'm an expert chef, and these are the 5 things I always buy at Costco. And this particular expert chef, I probably should have made the air quotes there, is actually a YouTube content creator that I don't believe is a chef. He is within the keto community, and he tends to be a very ingredient policey sort of person that goes to Costco a lot. So, maybe he's a Costco expert. But I saw that and I just shook my head. Like, dude, you're just a content creator. I'm just a content creator. I don't call myself a chef. I'm, a cook at best. But it's one thing if someone's just talking about products they buy or, tips for painting or woodwork or, whatever it is. I think it's another thing when you start acting like you're an expert on health. First off, I think health in general tends to be not only a very individual thing. So what may work right for one person may not work so well for another person, whether that's keto or exercise or whatever that thing is, fasting. So I think to call yourself an expert that can give just universal advice to all people, I take that with a grain of sand. But also, when you're giving out this expert, there's the air quotes, expert advice on health-related matters, people may make decisions that are bad for their health based on your advice. Which is why, like, when I do something like glucose testing, I make sure to say, listen, I'm not some sort of an expert. I'm not a scientist. I am not a doctor. I'm a goofball with a YouTube channel and a blood glucose monitor and probably a little too much time on his hands. And I bring this up because it's my personal feeling that this is deceptive behavior when people are artificially enhancing their credibility through some of the things they say, do, wear, and how they represent themselves in their YouTube channels. And one of the big things that I see, seems to be sort of a common theme, is the wearing of surgical scrubs, very often by chiropractors. Now, I have nothing against chiropractors. Some people use the term chiropractor almost like it's a pejorative or something. I don't. I've got a chiropractor. I love my chiropractor. He's great. He's great at fixing my back. Anytime I've ever had any issues, I had some really bad sciatica, he fixed me right up. He wears a tie and a white shirt and very often a white jacket. But I've never seen him wear surgical scrubs. And I've never seen him misrepresent himself as anything other than what he is, which is a chiropractor. I think he's quite happy to be a chiropractor. He's proud to be a chiropractor. He doesn't need to pretend to be something else. Anyhow, I really felt an obligation to get this off of my chest because it's been bothering me a lot lately. When I see these thumbnails of people wearing surgical scrubs that have probably never stepped inside an OR and are doing it just so that their advice, means more to you, it just sort of rubs me the wrong way, and I had to get it off my chest. And I hope that maybe by doing so, that some of you will look more objectively at what some of these folks have to say. That you're not just looking at them saying, oh, surgical scrubs, must be a surgeon. He or she knows everything about how, a heart transplant works or something like that. Anyhow, thank you for letting me vent. I'm all better now. Now, I had thought about doing a different topic to close out this podcast, but I don't feel that I've completely wrapped my emotions around it yet. And so it's probably going to be a future topic, and it is a continuation of my not drinking story. There was an event this past weekend. It was a wedding that my wife and I went to, and it's the first wedding that I've been to since I made the decision to stop drinking. And it was a challenge. I was successful, but it was a challenge. And then there were some more events over the next couple of days that presented more challenges. The short version, because I'm not going to give you the long version, this particular podcast is I made it through without drinking, but it was hard. I haven't had that sort of challenge and desire to drink since the beginning of the year. And until I'm able to fully wrap my head around the feelings that I had and be able to express them articulately, if that's possible for me, and in a way that I think can also relate back to keto and some of the challenges and cravings and stuff that we have on keto, I'm going to hold off on that as a topic until a future podcast. Plus, it's still just, it feels almost a tiny bit raw to me still. So I think I need a little bit more distance from the events to be a little bit more objective about it. And especially some of the behavior that I witnessed as a sober person that I would have not witnessed, or worse yet, been guilty of back in my drinking days. So that's just a little tease about what's coming in the future. In terms of another tease, and Chris Bear from Keto Chow might not be happy about me letting you in on this little secret here, but the flavor that I designed for Keto Chow, I guess, is going into production very, very soon. The package art has gone to the printer. We're on the home stretch right now, and it could be out by Black Friday, which I think would be super duper awesome. The other thing related to that is I'm working on a few other flavors. So Chris just sent me some flavor compounds that I had asked for, and I'm very excited because I think that these other flavors that I'm working on are going to be the sort of thing, I can't tell you anymore, but I think they're going to be cool. And well, here's what I will tell you, and I think a lot of you who've followed this channel for any length of time are aware of this. I am more of a savory guy than a sweet guy. I'm also more of a cook than I am a meal replacement guy. So those two things should give you a little bit of a clue into the direction that I'm going with the other flavors of Keto Chow that I plan on working on. But I'm going to be like a proud papa, I think, when that flavor finally releases. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed making it. I'm pretty proud of it. But I think that's going to be it for this podcast. This one's going to be an interesting one to edit because I actually recorded probably close to an hour worth of footage, and I found myself along the way sort of second guessing some of the things that I said and whether or not I should keep them in the podcast or not. So we'll see what the final product looks like. But as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening and or watching and or listening and watching.